really interesting. We were talking about this earlier today too. Old groups are breaking down. Now, not because anyone wants them to, it's a happening event. Either someone's getting fed up with it, or it's just not working, or it's not efficient, or the right people aren't present, or whatever it is. And there is nothing you can do about it. It's a done deal, over, finished, goodbye. We wish you well, we don't wish you any harm, but it's finished. At the same time, we may find that people we've known donkey's years ago turn up in our space who aren't there normally. It may be that completely new things get offered to us out of the blue, and we aren't even sure if we want to do it or if we're capable of doing it, but it's right in our space, so we better get a grip. And in a way, that's part of what tonight's about. Guru and I have talked, well, we talk all the time actually, and because we've known each other for such a long time, we are inclined to take the mickey out of each other. I might be slightly worse out of the two of us, but you hold your own quite well. So it's quite nice because we can have very, very fundamental discussions without getting annoyed or irritated, keeping the space light and amused, but able to investigate with precision. We're all going to have to do that. We're going to have to do it not just with people we trust because they've been tried and tested, but we will have to know immediately when we meet them whether they're okay people, one of ours, or whether they're not. Now that doesn't mean to say we're better or worse, it's just different. But we'll need to know, because if they're part of our team, we will start working straight away. And if they're not part of our team, then whatever we do just won't work. And you can know this, can't you? I mean, the more intuitive you are, the more you'll say, oh yeah, that's one of mine. Oh no, they can go on their bike. We're not wishing them harm or wishing them ill. We just need to be able to have that recognition and trust it. Because until we're able to love the creation that is us, we can't love the creation that is someone else. And it's all like, what's that game, Spirograph, isn't it? That kid's game. It's all like that. It's wheels within wheels, but the wheels are turning and the wheels are changing. And if we try to hang on and we don't surrender to the new, we'll be old and miserable before our time. A crone is a wise person. I investigated this. Doesn't mean to say they're old. It means that they have a wisdom within the discipline they represent. So we are starting a crone club. What's a male crone?
Well, I don't know if there are male crones.
Well, you're one, aren't you?
Well, I can be
an honorary.
An honorary crone.
Okay.
People often ask about, talking about yoga and say, well, you know, can you explain what yoga is? And one of the definitions of yoga is that it's the path of integration of all aspects of the self, examination of all aspects of the self, and then a kind of process of refinement. But of course, part of that process has to be disintegration. And you know, this is what Judy was just talking about, that there's been a kind of a major cycle in which political, ideological, social, sociological systems are disintegrating before our eyes and reforming. If you look at the movement of peoples in Europe now, we've got one of the biggest shifts since the Second World War. It's happening all over Europe. We're not quite sure how it's going to affect us, but we know we have to somehow integrate it and creatively accept it. And so this is going on at all levels of society. And so there's new little networks and groups of people who do this kind of work. And one of the kind of primary imperatives, which is really why we're here, is this understanding that there's, if you like, new teams or new networks who may be coming from apparently disparate disciplines, but who in fact recognise the same, if you like, inner and essential truths, and are quite happy to, and in fact welcome, working together and cooperating in a new vibration, in a new, if you like, structure that isn't old-style patriarchal top-down, but is rather, if you like, at one level, all-inclusive and recognition of each individual within any one group as having, if you like, a key say and a key piece of the solution of whatever it is that that group has met for. And so this is really about trusting the unknown and being comfortable in the unknown. Paul?
Yeah, no, I'm fully with that. I was just thinking, someone who's had a first-hand experience of deep involvement in a patriarchal top-down organisation and seeing the collapse of that. I was just wondering, as you were both talking, I'm finding that all the people that I know who are involved in that, who have moved into other things, we're all far more open now than we ever were to do what you're talking about, which is kind of the embracing of different views and more accepting of the fact that we meet in this one common place, but we have nevertheless a different take. But I'm just wondering if the experience of actually seeing something completely fall apart makes us more tolerant of less authoritarian didactic views. You know, I think we're accepting the fact that, I think it's like you were saying, there isn't one answer. And seeing, okay, if there isn't one answer, then how can we feel in together with each other with what the many different answers are and bring those together?
Well, there are two things that immediately spring to mind for me. One is one of my sons, when talking about one of his friends, said he'll be a really nice bloke when he's hurt a bit. And I thought, well, that's very nice. I don't know, I approve of that. But it turned out to be so true. This bloke went through a real life drama, and he had all the ingredients, they just needed rearranging a bit. It's called growing up, I think. Well, this is a time for us to spiritually grow up. You know, there is so much nonsense taught in the sort of description of spiritual endeavour. Spiritual endeavour is being the best you can possibly be. Not do, be. So it's a very self-responsible thing, and it's a very self-respect thing, and a lot of the teachings disempower. And actually the deal is to empower, not to dictate. It's got to be a democracy, and it's got to come from within the person as an individual. If they then choose to bicker with each other until they get a consensus viewpoint, all the better, because it shows they're human. So many of the teachers have tried to be superior or superhuman. Well, what a pain. I mean, you know, you might be taken in for a bit, like kids like watching a fairy tale, but it doesn't work in what my kids call real life. You know? So maybe that's just part of the growing up process. I can't remember the other point I was going to make, so over to you. Go on.
Judy, I have a question about what you were talking before, that we have to recognize in the other people if they are one of us. As I see it, humanity is divided in two groups, the awakened and the ones that are not awakened. Are you talking more or less about that? And what is our responsibility among the other group? Shall we bring it in? Shall we awaken them?
What makes us think we can do anything? We loved, we're so delusional. We're so full of our own self-importance. We think that we can achieve miracles. Well, I have 4 children of my own and 2 adopted. And I recognise that they grew up in spite of me, not because of me. Much as I'd like to think that I was this incredibly powerful influence. They're all individuals, they're all their own people. I'm sure there was some co-census stuff that went on that was helpful and gave a strong foundation. But I didn't do it, they did it. That's true of all of us. So we must have respect for each other, but we have to earn that respect. We can't just say, right, I took a course last weekend, now I'm an ascended master. Come and ask me anything you want. No, it's got to be blood, sweat, tears and toil for many years until we have a proven track record. And the interesting thing is that when we get to that status, we're usually quite cheerful and quite light-hearted. So no one believes the propaganda that we've had a hard time getting there. They all think we were born like that. Doesn't work like that. It's called evolution, and that's a very good rule of thumb when you go to some kind of spiritual enterprise. Oh my life, how miserable are some of them? So it's not very convincing. To carry light will also mean good humour, good-hearted, bit of a laugh, serious in what they do, but they don't work with a heavy touch, they work with a light touch. But they didn't get there without real hard work. And as Guru said, we're moving from centre of solar plexus to heart. That means we've got to clear the less desirable elements out of our heart, which will be old pain, old judgments, old blame, all sorts of junk. And it will just come up in the everyday. And either we work to release it and remove it, or it compounds and grinds us down.
So implicit in all of this is an understanding that, we are one world, one group, one society, and if it ever was in any way correct to say, well, our IQ is this, or we're a spiritual meritocracy, and you guys didn't quite make the grade, so you're on that bus over there, kind of thing. If that was ever acceptable, which I don't think it probably ever was, it certainly isn't now. It just isn't. And so it's the recognition and the understanding that we are actually all in this together and behaving like that. And that's actually in many of the spiritual teachings. It's the vow of the bodhisattvas that they'll keep on coming back until we're all through, until we're all liberated, because until we all are, none of us are. And so, so the same things keep on coming, the same kind of, behaviour, genocide and murder and all this sort of stuff. And we'll continue to do so until collectively we've reached a point where that has been, if you like, refined.
And it's very easy to see. You can see it in your friends or your family or whoever the groups are around you. I was telling Guru earlier, I have 2 daughters who were behaving like they were 3. They're actually in their late 30s and early 40s. And it was an old memory that was coming back to be released once and for all from the physical structure of all bodies. And we're seeing that a lot at the moment as the wheel completes its cycle, whatever the cycle is. It can be a really long one. In this case, it was a 36-year cycle. But when we finish it, we'll behave like we were starting it, which is fairly nauseating, actually. But often, people have to be reminded that that's where they are, so that they don't have to do it anymore. So it's really important that we're not shocked by it, we're not angered by it, we're not fearful of it. We just stonewall it. Yeah, that was then, this is now, get over it. You could, if you were being less kind, say, grow up. But actually, they don't know they're doing it until they're in it. So it's not kind to be nasty about it, but it is important to bring it to their attention, particularly if it involves you. Because who needs it? The second time around, it was bad enough the first. That's personal.